part of him, okay? And that means he's definitely me. That means that you're part of.
There was noticeable tension in the room when Chris Lampin and Jim Jones squared off, speaking up during a furious dispute. Family and friends were standing close by, exchanging glances, uncertain of how to. Jim is renowned for his anger was rapidly growing, and Chrissy wasn't giving up. "You can just speak to me in that manner," Chrissy yelled, trembling slightly. A mixture of shock and rage. "You've overstepped the mark." Jim's annoyance boiling over. "You have no right to choose how I manage stuff." He gave a facial smile. Filled with passion, the atmosphere snapped, with tenseness as he approached. His eyes suddenly narrowed. Startling, he gave Chrissy a powerful slap across the face. The sound bounced about the space, and everyone gulped in shock, going silent. Chrissy staggered backward, her hand shot to her startled expression giving way to a strong. She cried, "You've lost your mind, Fury." Her tone changed to one of skepticism and outrage. The ambience of the space changed significantly, tightening the tension while everyone pondered what had just at that moment. Jim's kid, who had stood back and observed from the sidelines, he'd seen enough of his father. "So enough. You cannot handle her in that manner." Voice was forceful and blended with a variety of, "Keep your outrage and worries out of this." Jim lost it, but his son didn't back down. Determined expression on his face. "No, I won't allow you to simply hit her and you're expecting everything to be all right. Dad, this is better." The room was buzzing with tenseness as the conflict revealed. The spectators frozen, and Jim mirrored his disbelief. "Better than this. Absurd that you believe you are capable of manage my life. I'm the one who decides rules here. You're really messing up." His son shook his head in response. Dissatisfaction. "That's not how you manage issues you're pushing everyone away from." Still in shock from the slap that took taking a step closer, her voice is now steadier. "Must pay attention to him, Jim. This is poisonous, and I refuse to accept it." Her voice was steadfastly propelled by the backing of his son, and it eased the stress like a knife in a fit of rebellion. Jim's son indicated the door. "If you understand, if this is all right, perhaps you should go. This isn't the man I admire." His remarks weighed heavily in the air, indicating that Jim's expression darkened. Scarlet, a mingling of humiliation and rage erupting. "You believe you can," he growled. "Kick me out of my own house." But his kid remained firm. "So sure I can if this is how you handle the individuals if you're not welcome here, love, then you must gather your thoughts." There was an electric tension in the room. Everyone watched, holding their breath, as Jim struggled to process the exchange. That the impact of his son's remarks appeared to resound, and he hesitated for a brief moment, between realization and rage. "Fine," he spat, his voice tight and low. "If things continue to go that way, I'll." Jim stormed out the door after saying that. Front door slamming shut on his departure. The atmosphere changed the instant he left. Chrissy and his son looked at each other. They feel a wave of relief. "Are you okay?" With worry engraved on his face, his kid questioned, turning to face Chrissy. She nodded, even if her feelings were still raw. "I simply find it unbelievable that he crossed." That line goes beyond simply slapping someone. It's not only everything that comes before it. "Could I?" His son shook his head in response. "We must maintain our position. This is not specifically, it's about what we permitting ourselves to advance in our lives." Both of them inhaled deeply, feeling the weight of the circumstances enveloping them. It wasn't limited to a physical fight. It served as a warning. Jim was spiraling, and they were both aware of it as they sat in the calm room. "The truth, as the moment started to dawn on me, I've always loved him, but I can't let this keep happening." Chrissy spoke in a voice, gentle, yet unwavering. "I won't allow him to treat his son, me, or anyone like that these days," said, nodding. "We need to solve this as a family. Should he be open to it? If things shift, perhaps there is hope, but if we don't need to defend ourselves." A blend of talk lingered in the air. Both hope and uncertainty realized that asking Jim about his actions wouldn't be simple, but they were after the required hours. The sun appeared to set, filling the space with a cozy warmth. "Do you believe he will return?" Chrissy, with a tinge of concern in her voice. I don't know, his son wisely answered, but we need to be prepared if he does. It's not appropriate to ignore this. Time for a sincere discussion. The closer they became as the evening went on, Chris's son became more resilient, and they had united to withstand the flood of poisoning, and as a result, they had made a secure environment for one another. The path ahead would be difficult, but they were ready to deal with it. Combined in their commitment to promote a healthier surroundings, Jim found later when he returned would be governed by a new comprehension of the door was now open for both change, and Chrissy was prepared to stroll with his son through it jointly in a sleek contemporary studio with the gentle buzz of waiting for. Jim Jones is seated across from the weight of his feelings on camera. His face is clear as he leans forward, prepared to reveal a startling period in his life. Allow me to address the matter directly. Starts off with a calm but intense voice. That intensity for a long period of time, I believed I had it. All resolved to love, success, and the future with Chrissy. But I just learned something that broke everything apart. I trusted my spouse. Chrissy Lampin stole my $7 million. He stops to allow that his words have weight, and I'm locked in. On the screen, as though challenging someone to contest his veracity. As you hear me, $7, $1 million. That's not small change I made. My career, which I started by working hard daily to establish my reputation and to learn that the individual I had faith in, the majority, had been scheming to harm me. Thus, Jim leans into a treachery I never saw coming. Back, shaking his head furiously. Begin with a few minor items. Unusual transactions involving missing money. Accounts. I reasoned that perhaps it was merely poor investment decisions or management. However, I then made the decision to delve farther. I possessed to understand what was happening, and what I discovered, it resembled a scene from a movie. His visage became solemn, a mixture of rage and pain I found concealed. Accounts. Transactions resulting in locations I didn't consent to. Chrissy's becoming, transferring my funds as though they were hers. Individual piggy bank. The surprise of it all fell on me like a ton of bricks. We co-constructed our lives. I believe we were a team. He tilts forward once more. Ferocity that exuded from him as I challenged her. I felt as though I was talking to an unfamiliar person. The denial justifications here was someone, and it felt unreal. I saw my spouse as my ride or die situation, and she had me fixed in her gaze, behaving as though it was all in my head. Yeah. Had the evidence, I had the paperwork and statements from banks. That was okay. Jim inhales deeply, yet the agony remains. Knew the most painful thing is that I would have given her everything I want to create a future together. But instead, she opted to reveal that love and trust are meant to be about faithfulness and honesty. Yet I felt foolish at the time. He extended his hand in faith in her. Anger was pouring through his hair. I don't usually come clean about things. Laundry. But money isn't the only factor here. Respect is the key. It's about the basis for what we were expected to. I've had to learn the hard way. The individuals closest to you may occasionally the people who have harmed you the most. His glance softens as one considers the trip forward. I'm currently gathering up the pieces. Concentrating on my brand and music. It's going to require time, but I won't allow this. Sums up who I am. I'm too far gone to let one act of treachery has held me back. So I'm regaining my power little by little with determined appearance. Jim stands up and gets ready to confront whatever comes next. I'm hoping that acts as a warning to everyone who is out, those who believe they are close to their mate. Hear your intuition and constantly maintain it. Open your eyes. You never know what could be hiding in the shadows. While he completes, the space is charged with a combination of heartbreak and resilience, are testaments to a man prepared to take back his story and create a new route going forward. Jim Jones, as well as his lifelong partner, Chrissy Lampin, have allegedly decided to part ways following as she shared a mysterious picture on Instagram. Narrative. On Friday, September 20, Chrissy Lampin emailed you, and we both know that it won't ever discover someone that is similar to me. Good luck with the endeavor. However, I'll replace you with. It's unclear what sparked tomorrow. Post. Yet the pair's bond has a lengthy and well-recorded history of rocky pair got together around 20 years ago following an encounter in a Harlem lounge. In 2004, Jim and Lamin joined the cast in 2011. Hip-hop and love in New York, while the pair seemed to genuinely care for one another. It was clear that Jim Jones frequently had concerns about getting married to Chrissy. Stated that later on in the series, she made the ballin' rapper We Fly High, as he did respond well when she got down on one. The pair has not yet exchanged vows. December 13th, New York. Chrissy Lampin and backstage at Deuce Palo at Jim Jones. On December 13, 2019, in Barclays Center, Johnny Noon's wire shot of New York City image eventually has to come to an end. By 2021, Chrissy Laming informs Jim Jones, despite spending 18 years together at the Laming, appeared to be over the notion of union on the third season of VH1's Love and Hip Hop edition at a family reunion. After he suggested that they getting married at last, she unexpectedly no, she replied. You want me to be this? Loving, insane, sexual, cooking, this, that, and the other. But when you return home, you're your distant, cold, and cruel. The couple's back and forth was intense, wherein Jones admits his mistakes, as well as aversion to commitment. I have always been my family's man, because that's all I know how to do, is to make an effort to support and earn money. I want you to know that I'm not self-centered in any case, since I cherish you more than could adore anything in this world, no matter what been a lengthy journey. But in Chris's viewpoint at some time, it must cease that in the dimly lighted living room, garments are strewn all about, with an open laptop sitting on the coffee table. Chrissy, clearly angry, she sits on the couch with red eyes. She grabs her phone while sobbing. Firmly, gazing at it in shock, she browsed through a collection of pictures exposing Jim's relationship with another woman, giggling and embracing Chris's face conveys rage and anguish. The Jim walks in the front door, nonchalantly. Oblivious to the strain, he freezes when observing Chrissy's agitated look. Jim walks over with a worried look on his visage. Chrissy maintains a stiff posture and shows him the information on her phone. Images. Jim's face goes pale when he understands she's talking about when he runs a hand through his hair. Obviously having trouble discover the appropriate words, Chrissy gives her a shake. Her cheeks were wet with tears as she turns aside in an attempt to comprehend her. Jim moves closer as his feelings grow. Despair in his gaze as he attempts to elucidate himself. Chrissy folds her arms. She emotionally distances herself and turns, looking out the window with a sorrowful heart. Jim looks away, guilt emblazoned on. After a while, Jim nods in his face, being aware of the consequences of his conduct, and stealthily departs the space. Chrissy falls onto the couch and begins to cry, phone falling out of her hands as she looks staring vacantly at the strewn clothing. She felt disoriented and deceived. The camera retracts, encapsulating the desolation in the space as Chrissy tries to locate a tranquility in the midst of the mayhem.